What if just 4 words could change everything in someone's life? It almost sounds impossible when you first hear it. 4 words don't seem like enough to shift emotions, to spark headlines, or to connect millions of people across the world. But that's exactly what happened when Johnny Depp spoke from the heart and shared a love confession that went viral. It wasn't a long speech. It wasn't a prepared statement. It wasn't a scene from a movie. It was something real, something raw, and something deeply human. 4 words that carried more weight than most people realized. He said, "You're the reason." And just like that, fans were left in shock. Think about Johnny Depp for a moment. For decades, he's been one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. He's played roles that became iconic. Captain Jack Sparrow is still quoted by kids and adults around the world. Edward Scissorhands remains a symbol of difference and vulnerability. His early roles made him a symbol of rebellion, someone who refused to fit neatly into Hollywood's boxes. He built a career by being unpredictable, mysterious, and a little untouchable. Yet behind all the fame, the headlines, the controversies, and the endless attention, there is a man who has always valued privacy. He rarely opens up about his personal feelings. He keeps much of himself hidden away, choosing to let his work, his music, and his art speak for him. So when someone like Johnny lets his guard down, even for a moment, people notice. They lean in, they replay the clip. They ask themselves, did I really hear that? Did he really just say that? That's the power of authenticity, because it's so rare to see in someone who has lived their life under the microscope of fame. And this wasn't a speech at an awards show. It wasn't a red carpet interview with flashing cameras. It wasn't something carefully prepared by a team of publicists. This was different. This was him. And when those 4 words came out, the reason, it felt like the world had stopped for a second to listen. What made it even more powerful was the simplicity. He didn't go into a long explanation. He didn't try to clarify or expand. He didn't give context. And maybe that was what made it connect even more. Because people are used to long statements, complicated answers, polished sound bites. We live in a time where so much of what we hear from public figures feels filtered, managed, and rehearsed. You can almost hear when something has been rewritten by a team. But this didn't sound like that. It didn't feel like that. It felt like a slip of the heart, and that's why it mattered. But why did those words hit so hard? Why did they go viral almost instantly? It wasn't just because Johnny Depp said them. It wasn't only about the celebrity factor. It was about what those words carried, what they represented, and how they made people feel. Because when you hear someone say, "You're the reason," you can't help but wonder, who's the reason? Was he talking to someone specific? Was it a romantic confession? Was it directed at a friend, a family member, someone who supported him behind the scenes? Or was it meant for something bigger? Was he talking to his fans, the millions of people who have stood by him through every high and low, through every celebration and every trial? For so many people watching, the answer felt obvious. It wasn't just about one person. It was about all the people who never let go of him. Johnny has had a life filled with ups and downs that most of us can't even imagine. He's been celebrated and loved, but he's also been criticized, doubted, and torn apart in the public eye. He's faced storms that would have broken most people, but somehow he kept going. And one of the biggest reasons for that has been the unwavering support of his fans. The people who never walked away, the people who continued to cheer for him when others stayed silent, the people who showed up for him not just when it was easy, but especially when it was hard. So when he said, "You're the reason," fans felt it was his way of looking out into the world and saying, "I'm still standing because of you." Imagine hearing that as a fan. Imagine supporting someone for years, following their journey, defending them, celebrating them, feeling like you've been part of their story, and then, one day, hearing them say those words. It's not just a phrase at that point. It's a message. It's a thank you. It's a connection that makes everything feel personal. That's why people didn't just hear it and move on. They held on to it, they replayed it, they shared it, they made memes, quotes, and posts. Social media lit up with reactions. Some people joked about it, some speculated endlessly about who he meant, but many felt something deeper. Because even if those words weren't meant for them individually, they felt them in their hearts. They resonated, they became personal, and that's the ripple effect of something so simple. It starts as a small phrase, but it grows into something bigger because people project themselves into it. They interpret it through their own experiences, their own feelings, their own relationships. For some, it became a romantic phrase, something they imagined saying to their partner. For others, it became a thank you to a friend, a parent, or a sibling. And for many, it became a reminder of what Johnny himself had been through and why gratitude mattered so much in his story. The truth is, Johnny has always been a storyteller, not just in the roles he plays, but in the way he expresses himself. In life, he's never been someone who lays everything out in clear, detailed explanations. Instead, he communicates through fragments, through looks, through small gestures, through pieces of music, through his art, and yes, through short phrases. Like this one, he doesn't hand people everything. He gives them a piece and lets them feel the rest. And that's what makes moments like this resonate. Experts on fame and celebrity culture often point out that the smallest glimpses of authenticity are the ones that stick the longest. Fans don't always remember the polished speeches or the scripted answers. They remember the slip, the tear in the eye, the laugh that wasn't planned, or the phrase that just slipped out, because those are the things that make someone real. And Johnny, who has built a career on mystery, unpredictability, and privacy, gave fans one of those glimpses. That's why it mattered so much. And here's the lesson that goes beyond Johnny Depp. It's something all of us can learn from. Connection doesn't always come from saying a lot. It doesn't always come from explaining everything. Sometimes the most powerful way to connect with someone is to say less, but to mean every single word. Think about it. When was the last time someone told you something simple, but it stayed with you? Maybe they said, "I'm proud of you." Maybe it was, "I've got your back." Maybe it was just, "I love you." Those are short sentences, but they carry entire worlds inside them. They can change how you feel about yourself. They can change how you see someone else. They can even change how you see life. That's what Johnny reminded the world with his confession. That sometimes the biggest impact comes from the smallest words. And people couldn't stop thinking about it. It wasn't just about Johnny anymore. It became about them. It became about you, about me, about anyone who heard it. Fans began asking themselves, who's the reason in my life? Who would I thank? If I had the chance, who means so much to me that I'd say those words to them? And that's what made this moment viral. Not just because it was Johnny Depp saying it, but because it touched something universal. The truth is, we all have someone. Maybe it's a partner who stood by us when times were rough. Maybe it's a parent who never stopped believing in us. Maybe it's a friend who made us laugh when we felt like crying. Maybe it's a teacher, a mentor, or even a stranger who said the right thing at the right time. Whoever it is, we all have someone who feels like the reason. And when Johnny said those words, he reminded everyone to think about that person, to appreciate them, to maybe even say those words out loud before it's too late. And that's what makes this confession so much more than just a viral clip. It's a reminder of the power of words. In a world filled with endless noise, debates, and distractions, sometimes it takes just a few honest words to cut through everything. Words that don't need explanation, words that don't need to be dressed up, words that are real. You're the reason. 4 words. Simple, short, but powerful enough to ripple across the hearts of millions. 4 words that carried gratitude, love, and truth. 4 words that reminded fans of their own reasons to keep going. 4 words that revealed a side of Johnny Depp that was unguarded, vulnerable, and unmistakably human. And those same 4 words reminded us that even someone who has lived a life as big, messy, and chaotic as his can still find meaning in something beautifully simple. At first, you might think, how could just 4 words mean so much? How could they go beyond being a passing statement? But sometimes it's the smallest things that leave the biggest marks. It's not always about saying more. It's about saying just enough with honesty to pierce through the noise. Johnny Depp didn't need paragraphs. He didn't need a carefully crafted speech. He didn't need to pour out every detail of what he felt. He let those words hang in the air, raw and bare, And in doing so, he let people feel them in their own way.
For
decades, Johnny Depp has been a man of mystery. The world has watched him play unforgettable roles. Jack Sparrow, whose mischievous grin and slurred wisdom defined a generation of adventure films. Edward Scissorhands, a character that embodied loneliness and quiet yearning. Donnie Brasco, who blurred the line between duty and friendship, and countless others. His roles often carried themes of misfits, outsiders, and people misunderstood by society. Many fans saw parts of Johnny in those roles, shadows of his real self slipping out through the characters he played. But Johnny the man? He's always kept that side of himself hidden away. Behind the cameras, he's quiet. He's private. He's guarded. So when he let those words escape, "You're the reason," the world listened. Not because of their length, but because of their weight. Here was a man who had faced storms that could have destroyed him, a man who had been at the highest peaks of fame and the lowest valleys of public scrutiny, a man whose life had been dissected, criticized, and judged. And in that moment, he let himself be soft. He let himself be vulnerable. And the world leaned in. The beauty of those words was in their mystery. Who was he talking about? Was it directed at one person? Was it for someone private, someone who had given him strength behind closed doors? Was it a romantic confession, the kind of thing you say when you can't hold it in anymore? Or was it something bigger? Was he looking out into the sea of faces that had stood by him through every storm and saying, "You kept me alive, you kept me standing, you kept me going, you're the reason I'm still here"? The ambiguity didn't weaken the moment, it strengthened it, because people were able to see themselves in it. Fans projected their own meaning onto those words. For some it was Johnny thanking his supporters. For others, it was him revealing his love for someone special. And for many, it was both. A universal message wrapped up in 4 syllables, and the reaction was immediate. Social media exploded. Clips spread in seconds. Captions repeating those words over and over. People quoted him, made edits, wrote posts, and created artwork. Some people joked, asking each other, "Who's the reason?" Others turned the moment into inspiration, sharing it alongside pictures of their own loved ones. And many people simply let it sit in their hearts. Because the truth is, we've all wanted to hear something like that. We've all wanted to be someone's reason. And hearing those words from someone as iconic as Johnny Depp reminded us of how powerful they can be. Think about it for yourself. Imagine someone you've given your all to, your love, your loyalty, your time, your belief, turning to you and saying, "You're the reason." Imagine how that would feel. It's not just a thank you. It's not just recognition. It's acknowledgement that your presence, your loyalty, your existence has shaped someone else's story. And that's why it hit so hard. Johnny's entire career has been built on storytelling, but not always in the way people expect. He doesn't always tell stories with long explanations or polished answers. Instead, he tells them in fragments, in subtle gestures, in small pieces that leave you thinking long after. He has always preferred mystery to clarity, suggestion to explanation. And yet, even with that style, those 4 words may have been one of the most powerful stories he's ever told. Experts who study celebrity culture often say that fans connect most deeply when a public figure reveals a flash of their real self. Not the polished version, not the rehearsed script, but the real person behind the fame. And that's what happened here. It was a rare moment where Johnny let go of the mask, the character, the performance, and showed the man beneath it. He showed gratitude. He showed love. And that kind of vulnerability is unforgettable. But let's take a step back and think about why those words spread the way they did. It's because they didn't just belong to Johnny. They became ours too. Every fan who heard them thought about their own reason. A partner, a parent, a child, a friend, maybe even a stranger who showed kindness at the right time. Everyone who listened could connect it to their own life, their own story. And that's the mark of something powerful. It transcends the person who said it. It becomes universal. And maybe that's what makes Johnny Depp's confession so lasting. Because it wasn't just about his life. It was about reminding all of us that we have our reasons too. The people we wake up for. the people who get us through hard days, the people who give us hope when we're on the edge of giving up. We all have someone who could be the answer to that phrase, and sometimes we forget to tell them. Sometimes we forget to let them know. That's the other beauty of this moment. It wasn't just something to watch, it was something to act on. It made people want to say their own 4 words, to send a message, to make a call, to whisper it into the ear of someone who mattered. Because as simple as it is, it's one of the most meaningful things you can ever say to another human being. And for Johnny, those words were a revelation. They were a window into the truth that even someone who has lived a life of extraordinary highs and crushing lows can still find strength in love, loyalty, and gratitude. His life has been far from simple. He's been celebrated, criticized, adored, mocked, worshipped, and torn apart. He's been through battles that unfolded in front of the entire world. And yet, in spite of all of that, or maybe because of it, he still found meaning in something simple. You're the reason. It makes you realize something important. At the end of the day, no matter how big someone's life looks from the outside, no matter how much fame or money or attention they have, they're still human. They still need connection. They still need love. They still need a reason. And that's what Johnny reminded us of, that underneath all the headlines and all the characters, he's just a man searching for the same things we all are. So now, let me turn the question to you. If you had to pick 4 words, just 4, to say to someone who means the world to you, what would they be? Would it be, I'll stand by you? Would it be, you saved my life? Would it be, forever with you always? Or would it be as simple as, you're my whole world? Whatever those words are, they can change everything. They can bring someone to tears. They can heal old wounds. They can remind someone that they matter. And isn't that what we all want? To matter? Johnny's words became a viral moment, but more than that, they became a mirror. They made us look at ourselves, at our own reasons, at the people who hold us up when we feel like falling. They reminded us that life is fragile, that people are precious, and that sometimes the simplest words can mean the most. You're the reason. 4 words that stopped time. 4 words that carried the weight of gratitude. 4 words that showed the heart of a man who had every reason to stay guarded, but chose instead to be real. 4 words that prove that no matter how chaotic life becomes, meaning can still be found in something simple. And maybe those 4 words will inspire you too, to think about your reason and to say it out loud before the moment passes. And now it's your turn. If you had to pick just 4 words to say to someone who means everything to you, what would they be? Would you say, thanks for loving me? Would you say, I'll never leave you? Or would you simply say, you're my whole world? Whatever those words are, they have the power to change someone's day, to change how they feel, and maybe even to change everything. That's why this moment matters. Because it's not just about Johnny Depp, the actor. It's about Johnny Depp, the human being. And it's about all of us realizing that sometimes the simplest words are the most powerful. So take this moment as a reminder. Don't wait to say your 4 words. Say them now. Say them to the people who need to hear them. Say them to the people who have been your reason, because those words can mean more than you realize. So let me leave you with this. If this story gave you something to think about, if it reminded you of someone important in your life, or if it simply made you smile, then share it. Let it spread, because who knows, maybe someone you love needs to hear those words today. And before you go, make sure you stay connected. There are more stories like this, more glimpses behind the curtain, more moments that show us the humanity behind the headlines. And I promise you won't want to miss them. 4 words. You're the reason. They changed everything for Johnny Depp, and maybe, just maybe, they'll change something for you too.